Hey guys, Dr. Josh Axe here. Welcome to Facebook Live. I'm so excited to be here with you today. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about 5 steps to reduce chronic inflammation. And you may not be aware of this, but most diseases today are caused by inflammation. In fact, in Latin, anything with an itis at the end means inflammation. For instance, ulcerative colitis, that's inflammation of the colon. Issues such as arthritis, that's inflammation of the joints. Heart disease is caused by inflammation of the arteries. So today I'm going to go through the best diet, the best herbs, the supplements, the essential oils that can reduce inflammation and help take your health to the next level. Also, I want to give a shout out to all of you guys who are watching here today. Let me know the city you're from, the state you're from, the country you're from. I'm going to say hey to you on Facebook Live, all of you guys that are watching right now. And a lot of people don't realize this, but again, most diseases are caused by inflammation. If you're struggling with any health problem right now, there's probably an element of that condition that is caused by inflammation that's going on within your body. Some of the top conditions that are almost completely caused by inflammation include heart disease. Heart disease is caused when you get inflammation of your arteries, which then your body starts laying down. Cholesterol can also cause high blood pressure. Leaky gut syndrome, arthritis, any type of joint pain, headaches, discomfort, that's inflammation. Arthritis, autoimmune disease, Crohn's and colitis, back pain, neck pain, even cancer. Did you know that many cancers have an inflammatory element to them? And so again, on today's episode, I'm going to be going over how to beat these issues naturally and beat inflammation for good. And by the way, if you're watching right now, I want to say thanks so much for being part of this episode. And do me a favor right now, there are millions of people today struggling with chronic health conditions and inflammation. Take a minute right now, punch your share button, click your like button. Let's be on mission together and teach people how to use food as medicine. All right, I'll see who's joining me right now here on Facebook Live. See, we've got so many of you guys who are jumping on from all over the world. Rena Hanlon is checking in from Paris, Texas. Hey, Rena, thanks for joining me here today. Jessica is watching from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Hey, Jessica, thanks for being here with me today. Carrie Clayton says she just shared this. So did Jackie. All right, hey, thanks so much, guys. Breland Amadova saying hey from Nashville. Hey, Breland. And we've got Lolly Scott from Denver. Awesome, guys. Hey, thanks so much for being with me today. And we are going to dive right in. We've got Starlin Hope from Greensville, South Carolina. Debbie Murphy from St. Louis, Missouri. Hey, Debbie, thanks for being here with me today. So, guys, we're going to jump in and talk about the first things you've got to remove. And I've got actually several things that aren't up on the board that I'm going to be talking about today as well. But for starters, as we've talked about, most of us have heard of the anti-inflammatory diet. If you really want to reduce it, and other types of grains such as lectins, we know gluten can be inflammatory. So there are actually a lot of compounds in wheat and grain products that can cause inflammation. Now I'll say this, if you're following a traditional Chinese medicine diet and you're getting some rice that's been sprouted and slow cooked in a crock pot and you're doing 1 to 2 servings of grains a day, and all of your other diet is very, very healthy and clean, then doing some grains in moderation is okay. But for some people, you may even want to go completely grain-free for a period of time. If you're struggling with a chronic inflammatory health condition or have joint pain, arthritis, any type of major inflammation, you may want to go completely grain-free and at the very least, only consume ancient grains that have been sprouted, okay? And let me say this, inflammation isn't necessarily a bad thing. For instance, if you would sprain your ankle, if that's ever happened to you, we know that that's inflammation occurs at the site, which inflammation helps with healing. It's when you have chronic inflammation over time that it starts to build up and cause disease within your tissues and body. So again, it's one thing for you to have inflammation. Imagine you sprain your ankle, inflammation, there's one time, but if that injury keeps happening time and time again, that's the problem. So again, it's not really inflammation that's bad, it's the things that are causing damage, which causes an inflammatory process in the body. So here's the biggest things you need to stay away from. Again, number 1, conventional grain products. And I'm also talking about wheat bread, white bread, regular pastas, bagels, cereal, all of these refined grains, they're really highly inflammatory. The next thing here is going to be sugar. Sugar is highly inflammatory to the body. So when I'm talking about just regular, not fruit, but fruit sugar like fructose, I'm especially talking about high fructose corn syrup and any sort of just conventional sweeteners, even cane sugar to a degree, or white sugar, of course. Highly, highly inflammatory. They cause many other problems in the body. And I would say the number one food that actually causes cancer and heart disease. In fact, the number one thing that causes all of these problems up on the board is sugar. So getting sugar, especially conventional sugar, out of the diet, what I would replace sugar with is raw local honey, dates, and stevia. Those are my three favorite sweeteners. Raw local honey, dates, and then stevia. Those are my favorite sweeteners to use on a regular basis. So again, you don't want to do like a lot of raw honey, like a cup a day, but 1 or 2 tablespoons of raw honey a day is okay. A couple dates for sweeteners. But in general, you want to go sugar-free, at least processed sugar, and only using small amounts of completely natural sugars in your diet. This might surprise you. I have this up here. Sunflower and safflower oil. Now, have you ever bought healthy potato chips? Most of the thing you want to keep in mind with inflammation, one of the most important aspects is balancing out something in your body called omega-3 fats and omega-6 fats. Now, there are foods that are plant-based that are very high in omega-6 fats. For instance, corn products, safflower, sunflower, peanuts. Those are really high in omega-6 fats. So having a little bit of them is okay, especially if you're eating them with omega-3s. But if you're getting a lot of processed omega-6 fats, it's going to throw off your body's ratio of omega-3 to omega-6, causing inflammation throughout your entire body. So again, look on your labels. If you're eating a lot of healthy potato chips and you're not taking an omega-3 supplement at the same time or getting a lot of omega-3s, then if you're consuming healthy potato chips or whatever the chips are with a lot of sunflower and safflower oil, that's going to cause major inflammation in your body. So remember this, just because you bought some at the health food store or it's labeled a health food does not necessarily mean it's healthy. That's why when I buy chips, I look for chips that typically are made with coconut oil. I love Jackson's Honest chips, also potato chips that are made with even things like olive oil are okay, but really coconut oil chips are the best. It's a good replacement there, coconut oil, for those types of oils. Vegetable oils, as I mentioned, read the ingredient list. If something has lots of things like corn oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, these are partially hydrogenated, highly inflammatory oils you want to stay away from. And of course, we know fast foods, processed foods, anytime you're eating out, anytime anything has been fried in oil, it's typically going to cause major inflammation throughout the body. And the other thing I didn't put up here, inflammation can cause a number of health issues. It can cause everything from, as we talked about, heart disease, leaky gut, arthritis, autoimmune disease, Crohn's colitis, and I'm just touching the list here. There are so many things that go above and beyond that here as well. All right, guys, I'm going to see the comments you guys are making here, and then we're going to jump right into the diet here as well. Beth says, hello from Michigan. She says, I so appreciate your knowledge. Hey, Beth, thanks for the encouragement there. Janice asked a question about sunflower oil. That's right, sunflower oil. Now, listen, I'm not saying that all sunflower oil is bad. Okay, some sunflower oil, if it's raw and cold pressed, it's fine, but you've got to be careful because it's pretty much it's really high in omega-6 fats. So my point is, if you're not getting a lot of omega-3s that we'll talk about in your diet all day and maybe taking a quality fish oil supplement and things like that, if you're not doing that, then even this healthy oil, it's going to cause inflammation. Remember, it's all about balance in your body. It is absolutely critical if you want to reduce inflammation. Lynn asked a great question. What about avocado oil? Avocado oil and olive oil, almond oil, those are monounsaturated fats. Those are very neutral. So they're not inflammatory and they're not highly anti-inflammatory. They are very mildly anti-inflammatory. Unless you cook them or heat them, then they become mildly inflammatory. So monounsaturated fats are more borderline in that case. In most cases, they're a great question there as well. Kendall says, should we take krill oil? I'll talk about that in the supplement section. In fact, I'm going to write something and add something on this list that I didn't put up here to start. Olivia asks, can you please tell me something about fibromyalgia? You know what? Fibromyalgia is definitely on this list. It falls in the autoimmune category. It could be by itself there. Fibromyalgia is absolutely caused by inflammation where you get trigger points all over the body. Now with fibromyalgia, you're going to want to follow this diet that I'm laying out. You're going to want to take a magnesium supplement. Okay, take magnesium. And you're also going to want to see a natural healthcare practitioner, maybe like an acupuncturist or somebody that can do needling and help relax those trigger points that build up with fibromyalgia. I got another question here. What about oatmeal? So with oatmeal, that would fall in line with, that can be an ancient grain, gluten-free oats, along with quinoa, along with amaranth, along with wild rices. Those are okay if they're sprouted and put in a crock pot or cooked for a long period of time. But again, doing a lot of grains in general, I'd only recommend 1 to 2 servings of grains a day of ancient grains, okay? So the rest of those, but really in general, grains, they are inflammatory. They do cause inflammation. So if you want to reduce inflammation, you want to go grain-free or just small amounts of sprouted oats once daily is my recommendation. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump in here. And I got a question here. What about agave? I don't recommend agave nectar. I don't think it's a good sweetener in most cases. I think it tends to be inflammatory. So again, agave nectar is inflammatory. That's why I recommend raw local honey. I recommend dates. And I recommend stevia be used as your natural sweeteners. All right, guys, let's jump into the best diet to reduce inflammation throughout the body. Here we go. Number 2 here, diet. Let's talk about salmon. Salmon is the most anti-inflammatory food that's available today. It's high in omega-3 fats. Remember I mentioned this earlier, too many omega-6 fats here. You want to really up your omega-3 intake, anywhere from 1,000 milligrams to 3,000 milligrams daily in your diet. You know, one about 4-ounce serving of salmon has very close to 1,000 milligrams of omega-3s a day. So again, you want to get that equivalent in your diet. If you're not eating wild-caught salmon during a day or wild-caught fish, you absolutely must and should be taking some sort of a fish roe or fish oil or some type of omega-3 supplement during that day. But salmon is so anti-inflammatory, as well as other fatty fish such as sardines and mackerel and tuna and other fatty fish. So again, it doesn't have to be salmon, but you need wild-caught fish in your diet. If you can't, again, make sure you're supplementing with some sort of omega-3 supplement on a regular basis. And salmon and other fish actually also contain antioxidants like astaxanthin, which are also highly anti-inflammatory. Fish roe contains squalene, so these are great compounds that reduce inflammation. So salmon, number 1. Number 2, green leafy vegetables. You know, green leafy vegetables are packed with phytonutrients and compounds that reduce inflammation. Things like lutein and xanthine and beta-carotene and alpha-carotene and all of these other really unique phytonutrients that are anti-inflammatory and powerful antioxidants. Also, vitamin K is very high in green leafy vegetables. Vitamin A, you know, and they're also very alkalizing to the body, which can help reduce inflammation as well. So green leafy vegetables, spinach, kale, chard, arugula, bok choy, different types of cabbages are absolutely in those categories as well. And other green vegetable, asparagus. Asparagus helps boost glutathione in your body, another powerful anti-inflammatory vegetable there as well. I'm going to continue on with diet though, but I just want to also take a minute here. Suzanne says, what about borage oil instead of fish oil? No, borage oil is actually an omega-6 fat. Now, this is getting really detailed, but there are different types of omega-3s and different types of omega-6s. The omega-6 we're deficient in is called DGLA. That's in borage and evening primrose oil. That's not going to be inflammatory. So borage oil is okay, but the type of omega-3s include EPA, DHA, ETA, as well as ALA, okay? The best that you typically want to be getting in your body are EPA, DHA, and ETA. Those are found in wild-caught salmon. Caviar fish roe is the only thing, along with green lipid mussels, that contains ETA, which is probably the most anti-inflammatory of them all. But again, salmon is great, green vegetables here. And guys, do me a favor, right now we are live talking about 5 steps to reduce chronic inflammation. There are millions of people right now struggling with inflammation in their body, struggling with joint pain, inflammatory bowel disease, cancer, heart disease. All of these conditions, they have one thing in common. They're caused by inflammation. So take a minute right now, be on mission with me. Take a second, punch your share button, click your love button as well if you're loving this live broadcast. But I'll tell you, I get emails all the time from people saying, Dr. Axe, I watched one of your live episodes because somebody shared it with me and it radically changed my life. So just know, simply by pressing the share button, you can be somebody's health hero. All right, let's jump right back in. Bone broth. We know bone broth. Listen, bone broth contains amino acids that are anti-inflammatory, but also bone broth contains glucosamine, chondroitin, and hyaluronic acid. We know especially glucosamine and hyaluronic acid are highly anti-inflammatory. That's why you'll see them oftentimes in joint formulas that help reduce joint arthritis and inflammation. So bone broth, highly anti-inflammatory. This morning for myself, I had a bowl of blueberries and then I had a bone broth smoothie with just some chocolate bone broth powder and turmeric bone broth powder. So again, bone broth, high inflammatory. Also, I make chicken soup on a regular basis, but get more bone broth. Number 3 here, wild meats. Listen, you are what you eat, what they ate. When cows are eating grains or fattened up on corn and soy, did you know most of their fat tissue? So if you go and buy, let's say, a burger meat and you're eating hamburger, if those cows are not 100% grass-fed, their tissues are full of omega-6 fats. You then eat their tissues, it causes inflammation in your body. Versus if a cow is fed grass year-round, then what happens in their body is they're full of omega-3 fats, so you consume their meat and then it actually reduces inflammation in your body. And this is why I have a problem. There are people that are putting out studies out there saying, red meat is bad, it causes heart disease. It's not apples to apples. When we see those studies, what we're finding is they're consuming conventional meat that of course is inflammatory versus grass-fed beef, which is anti-inflammatory, so it's very, very different. And think about this as well. If cows eat a lot of grains, it causes disease in their body. If cows eat grasses and things that are green and vegetables and those things that they're meant to eat, it helps heal their body. Same thing with you. If you're on a diet that's loaded with a lot of processed or refined grains, lots of grains, versus a diet that's full of a lot of fruits and vegetables, which diet is more anti-inflammatory? Well, the same one that's better for the cow, so same thing. A diet that is anti-inflammatory is very high in vegetables, fruits, herbs, as well as wild meats, and that's really it. If you're following a diet like that, it's going to reduce inflammation in your body. And this brings up the paleo diet. The paleo diet typically is a better diet if you're following it the right way. Again, you're not eating shrimp and butter and bacon every single meal. If you're eating like a real hunter-gatherer, they were eating wild-caught fish and wild meat. They were doing lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of herbs, and that was the diet, okay? So again, they probably weren't doing much oils. In fact, they probably weren't frying much bacon either. It was probably a very small part of their diet. So again, wild meats help reduce inflammation because they have omega-3 fats in them, which can be very beneficial for the body. And I'll say this about wild-caught meats as well. It's also eating their joints. That's why bone broth is good, that you need to have that in balance in the body. Enzyme-rich fruits help reduce inflammation. I actually want to say hey to a friend of mine, Breland Amadova from Hawaii. Breland is staying with my wife and I, Chelsea, right now, and he brought me a pineapple here from Hawaii. By the way, I can smell it from here. A lot of times when you buy pineapples at the store, they're sort of dull and they're not full of flavor and taste. This pineapple is very different. You can see it's actually very yellow here. Now, pineapple contains an anti-inflammatory enzyme called bromelain, okay? And this is found in a lot of supplements today, but surprisingly, bromelain is found in small amounts in the flesh of the pineapple, It's found in the highest levels in the core of the pineapple. So if you ever get a pineapple, eat the outer flesh, you're going to get some bromelain, but also take the core and juice it. If you have a juicer at home, juice it, and that's where the highest levels of bromelain are, which is one of the most anti-inflammatory compounds on the planet. I mean, it is so anti-inflammatory. So again, pineapple here, you'll see it is packed. It is an enzyme-rich superfruit that helps reduce inflammation in the body. So pineapple, incredible fruit. The core, though, highest part of the reducing inflammation. Now, kiwi is also very high. The great thing is the whole fruit of the kiwi, you don't have to try and find a way to get it out of the core. Kiwi contains an active compound called actinidin, which is probably the most anti-inflammatory of all the fruits I've listed here. The next one here, papaya, has papain, and then figs have phycin. And all of these are the best fruits, along with blueberries. Okay, so pineapple, kiwi, papaya, fig. I'm going to throw blueberries and cranberries in there. Those are the most anti-inflammatory fruits you can eat. Unfortunately, most other fruits don't have the same enzymes. If you are on an anti-inflammatory diet, load up on these fruits. And then here's omega-3 fats, flax, chia, and walnuts. So I want to mention this. The omega-3s in flax, chia, walnuts, and hemp seeds are different than those found in wild-caught salmon. In salmon, there are EPA and DHA, which are the most powerful anti-inflammatories. Omega-3s and flax, chia, and walnuts are still really beneficial. You should get those every day, but they're not as anti-inflammatory as what you're going to find in wild-caught salmon. What I love to do for a morning smoothie is do a scoop of bone broth protein powder, do a tablespoon or so of maybe chia or flax seeds, some coconut milk, and that's a great way to get that in your diet, or even doing a chia seed pudding is fantastic as well. And a few other fruits here, celery and beets. Celery actually reduces uric acid in the body. We know beets actually increase nitric oxide in your body, which supports the cardiovascular system, which reduces inflammation as well. So celery and beets. In fact, if you want to do a juice to really help your joints, beet and celery juice, you add a little ginger root in there, man, I mean, your joints will start feeling absolutely incredible. And this is actually the celery beet juice. Is something a lot of athletes are doing now as well to promote recovery and improve overall performance. In fact, this is like the ultimate heart elixir as well. I want to talk about healing heart disease. That's an incredible combo there. So again, this is the diet. So remove these foods. I'd also put conventional meat and conventional dairy up here. I should have added that as well. So those are things you want to remove. This is the diet you want to follow. And then we're going to jump and talk about herbs here right now as well. And I'm going to see some of the great comments and questions we're getting here. And by the way, if I missed a food, if there's a food that you think I should add on here, hey, go ahead and let me know what you think right now here on Facebook Live. Tanya asks, what about coconut sugar and pure maple syrup? Well, coconut sugar and pure maple syrup do contain some disaccharides. So they're not just monosaccharides like are found in honey and fruit, which they tend to cause a little more inflammation in the body. So again, let me put things on a spectrum for you. The least inflammatory is going to be raw honey and dates and stevia in terms of these sweeteners that reduce inflammation. After that, in the middle somewhere, we have things like coconut sugar and maple syrup, and probably cane sugar. And then over here, we have things such as regular sugar, high fructose corn syrup, and the others. So again, the least inflammatory is going to be raw local honey. So maple syrup and coconut sugar, they're borderline. They are mildly inflammatory. They're not highly inflammatory like high fructose corn syrup, but they do still cause an element of inflammation. But again, if you're making a healthier dessert at home, they're definitely a better option. So I don't want to discourage you completely from that. A question about what about lupus? You know, lupus is an autoimmune disease. Remember this. Most diseases are caused by inflammation. A lot of those diseases start with gut inflammation, which when your gut becomes inflamed, it can then cause issues with the brain, with the skin, and with your entire immune system. So what happens is the condition leaky gut, your intestinal lining acts like a net between your intestines and your bloodstream. If you start to get a lot of inflammation on this gut lining, imagine it as a net. It starts to get rips and holes in it. That inflammation tears holes in the gut lining. So then inflammatory things can start to leak through the bloodstream, such as undigested proteins such as gluten, toxins, bad bacteria. With lupus, that'll cause, if that continues, that inflammatory process and leaky gut over time, it will then start causing inflammation throughout your entire body. So that's really what lupus is. But if you want to heal lupus, you've got to just reduce inflammation of the gut, which this diet does, and then the lupus symptoms will start to go away. So again, lupus is an inflammatory autoimmune condition. All autoimmune conditions, they should be called auto-inflammatory conditions in a way as well, because they're both autoimmune and auto-inflammatory conditions. Question Lauren asked about goji berries. Hey, great point. Goji berries along with blueberries could definitely be on this list of highly anti-inflammatory foods. Michelle says ginger. Michelle, I will be getting to ginger in just a second here. You'll see. William asks, what about macadamia nuts? You know, nuts in general, almonds, macadamias, cashews, those are borderline. They're not inflammatory. They're not anti-inflammatory. They sit right in the middle, as does olive oil and avocados and things. Or some of them could be mildly anti-inflammatory. All right, guys, let's jump into the best herbs, essential oils, and supplements for reducing inflammation. But as I've talked about this episode, there are millions of people struggling with inflammation right now. Again, did you know most cancer, most heart disease, diabetes, skin issues such as psoriasis and eczema, leaky gut syndrome, autoimmune disease, all of these things are caused by chronic inflammation. Millions of people are suffering right now because they don't know this diet to help heal their body. Take a minute right now, be on mission with me. Press that share button right now here on Facebook Live. And if you've been surprised or excited about any information here, punch the wow button right now as well. All right, I'm going to jump in here, talk about the best herbs. Number one is turmeric. Now, many of you guys have heard of turmeric. All of the benefits there. Turmeric contains a compound called curcumin, which is highly anti-inflammatory. So turmeric is great. In fact, I wrote an article recently where, listen, this is going to blow your mind. Turmeric was shown to be more effective than 15 different types of medication at treating disease. Think about that. Turmeric is more powerful than medications at reducing inflammation, fighting disease, or its compound curcumin is. It is incredible, and by the way, it doesn't have all the side effects. Cayenne pepper. Cayenne is powerful. In fact, of all the things on this list, cayenne pepper is probably the most anti-inflammatory. It contains a compound called capsicum, which reduces inflammation, boosts circulation and heart health, fights cancer. It is powerful. So again, turmeric and cayenne, I would do those together. There was a study done on turmeric and piperine or black pepper, and it was found that actually turmeric was more effective in the body when taking it with a spice. So again, when you take turmeric, take a little bit of cayenne with it, that actually helps it disperse more throughout your entire body. Next thing here is cinnamon. Cinnamon is really effective because it balances out blood sugar levels and insulin. You may not realize this, but insulin, actually a lot of issues today in terms of inflammation are caused by imbalanced blood sugar levels. If sugar is okay when it's taken in proper doses into the body, very small amounts, too much of it, it causes inflammation. Cinnamon helps bring sugar inside of your cell, balance out the blood sugar levels so there's not too much sugar in your bloodstream, so it reduces inflammation. So cinnamon's incredible for that reason, as is ginger. We know ginger root contains compounds such as zingerbean and gingerol, which, similar to curcumin and turmeric, really helps reduce inflammation there as well. So again, these are herbs, and I would be generous. By the way, there are more herbs than this. Some of the herbs I left down here for the essential oil category, you'll see a lot of these can be flip-flops. So a lot of these essential oils I'll mention, but we want to go crazy for herbs. I talk about this all the time. If you go into a household in India, in Asia, in China, you walk in there, the house smells, has a fragrant aroma to it. Our American kitchens today, or even if you go to Australia or Europe today, it's not as common. You know, I was talking to my friend Gil, who's an acupuncturist here in Nashville, and similar thing. He was telling me all about the Israeli market, and you just are smelling these foods. You know, most of the time we have food shipped to us. They're sprayed. They're not completely ripe. They're brought here, so they never ripen on their own. So they're actually missing a lot of these compounds and nutrients we need. But my point getting back to it is this: shop at your local farmer's market for one, have your own herb garden. But we need to get more of these herbs in our diet. It is so common in other areas of the country. A lot of time in Europe and North America, it is not very common. So again, load your food up. If you're making hamburgers at home, throw a bunch of turmeric powder in there. You know, if you're making some hummus, throw in some cayenne. If you're doing a smoothie in the morning, add in some cinnamon and clove and nutmeg. You know, if you're making a pineapple smoothie or whatever it is, add a bit of ginger there. I mean, these herbs are the most, of all the things I have listed here, herbs are probably the most therapeutic and healing to the body. They are nature's medicine. All right, let's talk about essential oils. By the way, I'd love to hear from you if you have any herbs that you would also mention or recommend here as well to help reduce inflammation. Mention here about astragalus is awesome. Astragalus is awesome. It is actually the most awesome for acting as an adaptogen to lower stress hormones such as cortisol in the body, which if cortisol is too high can cause inflammation. So astragalus and other adaptogens can absolutely help the body in that way as well. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into, oh, by the way, somebody mentioned turmeric tea. It's a great idea. Take some coconut milk, a little bit of ghee, and turmeric, and a pinch of, and add a little black pepper in there as well. It is an anti-inflammatory tea that's incredible. All right, let's jump into essential oils. By the way, I'd love to hear from you right now. What is your favorite anti-inflammatory essential oil? You know, if you've ever had joint pain, is there a specific oil? You can mention a couple oils, but mention maybe a single oil that you use to reduce inflammation. If you've ever noticed issues with joint pain or any type of health condition, list the condition and the oil you used right now on Facebook Live. All right, April actually makes a great comment. She said coriander. You're right, coriander oil is highly anti-inflammatory. I didn't put that one up here, but that is a great comment. Great mention there. All right, essential oils, frankincense oil. Frankincense oil contains a lot of compounds, alpha-pinene and others that definitely reduce inflammation. Frankincense is one of my favorites. One of the most powerful on this list is rosemary oil. You know, rosemary oil contains phenol and cymin and some other compounds that actually really reduce inflammation as well. And a lot of times people don't think that, but rosemary is actually one of the best for reducing inflammation of the prostate. So prostatitis, I believe that rosemary oil is one of those oils that every man should be taking daily. All men should be loading up on turmeric and rosemary. Those are probably two of the best oils any man, and of course women too. I don't mean to, I have some others for you women I'll mention in a minute, but men and women both, but especially men, rosemary and turmeric every day. For women, here we go, sage. Sage has been shown to balance hormones, but also it is a powerful anti-inflammatory herb and essential oil. Using clary sage oil also helps balance out estrogen levels within your body. And then marjoram. Marjoram is actually the best for muscle pain. If you're getting a muscle ache or pain, marjoram is one of the best. Clove oil, of all the things on this list, clove is the most anti-inflammatory herb on the list in terms of its antioxidant capacity. So it may not have the highest, I should rephrase it, it has the highest antioxidant capacity. It also helps reduce inflammation here in the body. And then thyme oil. We know thyme also has anti-inflammatory properties. These are some of the best, but women should be doing, I believe, like sage every day, lavender every day, men rosemary and turmeric every single day in terms of herbs and spices. And again, get generous with these herbs. If you're making sweet potato french fries at home, hey, load them up with some rosemary there. Or maybe you're making lamb at home or an Italian dish. Basil is also highly anti-inflammatory. Use herbs and spices. Use essential oils. And if you've got muscle pain, make a blend. Wintergreen and peppermint are a cooling oil. You can then do an oil like a ginger, which is a warming oil, and then do an anti-inflammatory oil like a frankincense or helichrysum on a joint, or marjoram works great as well here. We'll see what sort of comments we have on what essential oils you guys are using. By the way, if you're enjoying this live training, take a minute right now, punch your share button. If you've been loving this live training, click the love button as well. All right, let's see here. Somebody says, please tell us how to use these oils. Again, if you're having actual joint pain, make a mixture of all these oils together. Mix it with a little bit of coconut oil. So maybe like 3 drops of 3 different oils and a teaspoon of coconut oil and just rub it into the joint. And sometimes then you can take a hot compress and press it on the area for 1 minute and take it off. You'll actually really feel it seeping deep into the joints. Because here's the thing, when you get an area hot or warm, it opens up capillaries, so then oils can better penetrate and get deeper into the body. So taking a hot rag, once you put the oils on and compressing it for 1 minute, you will feel them seeping really deep in the area. So that's the biggest thing I would recommend. If it's an internal issue, I'll do single drops of turmeric oil and rosemary oil, like a couple single drops, and drink that in water or eat that as part of a meal. You can even add it as part of a recipe. So again, with certain oils, I do a drop of cinnamon oil in a smoothie sometimes. So again, you want to be careful though. Remember, essential oils are plant-based medicine. If you're consuming them internally, you want to look for ones that you make sure we're not sprayed with anything, so are organic in nature, that have a supplement fact actually on the essential oil bottle if you're going to take them in that way. But again, don't overdo it. A single drop is typically enough with most of these as well. Julia Brown mentions balsam fir. Great point. A lot of the wood oils, cedar wood, fir oil, cypress, they definitely have anti-inflammatory properties, especially of the spine or if you have a broken bone. So again, I would totally agree. In fact, I should have put fir up there. Fir is incredible. If you ever break a bone, remember this remedy. Fir essential oil along with lemongrass oil are 2 of my favorites to put on an area for a broken bone and to reduce inflammation there as well. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to talk about the last category here of supplements. If you want to reduce inflammation, you got to use these supplements. Number 1 is MSM. By the way, I forgot a huge one here. And you notice I haven't been writing, but this is so important that I'm going to take a minute right now and write it on the board. You can see what I'm writing here. This is a huge one. It's some form of a fish oil. In fact, in medical studies, fish oil is probably the most well-studied oil for reducing inflammation in the body. So MSM is actually a sulfur-containing compound. Sulfur reduces inflammation and joint pain. So sulfur is found in high levels of bone broth, in garlic, in onions, in egg yolks, and also leeks. Okay, so garlic, onions, egg yolks, and fish, skins and bone broth. High levels of MSM that reduce inflammation, especially if you've got a lot of joint pain, just chronic pain in the body. MSM, 1,000 milligrams, 2 to 3 times daily, can be very effective at helping relieve chronic pain. Also, boswellia. Boswellia is a compound that's found in frankincense, okay? Now, surprisingly, boswellia is not found in frankincense oil. Frankincense oil contains a lot of other anti-inflammatory compounds, but boswellia is an extract taken from boswellia powder. Boswellia is very, very anti-inflammatory. So you can actually, even though you don't get it in frankincense oil, you can take frankincense in a powder form that has high levels of boswellia. Also here, collagen. So taking a collagen protein supplement or a bone broth supplement on a daily basis, that type 1, type 2, type 3 collagen are anti-inflammatory in nature. Also, green tea extract. Green tea contains polyphenols, which reduce inflammation. So listen, drinking tea just throughout the day is so beneficial. And I know in America we tend to do a lot more coffees and energy drinks. We do a lot of energy drinks. But, if we go to Asia, they are drinking tea all day, but it's teas that work as adaptogens. It's reishi tea. It's holy basil or tulsi tea. It's more of these mushroom and herbal adaptogen, drinking those teas. Those are their natural energy drinks over there. We should be getting more of those. We know a little bit of coffee can be okay. Bone broth coffee, I love it. I had it yesterday for breakfast as well. But again, green tea, very powerful. And then fish oil. 1,000 to 3,000 milligrams a day of fish oil, highly anti-inflammatory. When I say fish oil, that could also mean cod liver oil. It could mean fish roe oil, which is actually made from fish caviar, which is probably the most powerful anti-inflammatory thing out there today. But in general, getting omega-3s, EPA, DHA, ET in your diet are absolutely going to help reduce inflammation in a major way. And there are other tips and things here I want to mention for reducing inflammation. Before I do that, would love to see your comments. And again, do me a favor, let's help spread this message. Most diseases today are caused by inflammation. heart disease, leaky gut, arthritis, autoimmune disease, psoriasis, eczema, Crohn's colitis, back pain, cancer, fibromyalgia. All of these are caused by inflammation. Diabetes, if you know anybody with one of those conditions, especially after this video is over, they can go back onto my Facebook page, the Dr. Josh Axe page, click on videos. We have all of the old videos on there as well that you can go back and watch and check out. But make sure you share with a friend, because there are people, if they just knew how to change their diet here and what supplements to take, it could radically transform their health forever. So I want to say thanks for all of you guys who have been sharing this information. I know it's going to radically transform lives here as well. And if you haven't been or haven't done it yet, press the share button or another button to help spread the love, such as the love button or the wow button here as well. All right, guys, a few questions here. What's better, krill oil or fish oil? They're equally as good to me. I typically don't do krill because they're bottom feeders. I don't eat shrimp either, or crab. I tend to just do wild caught fish. So because of me, I typically don't do krill oil. I prefer a fish oil from caviar with phospholipids, or a fish oil or a cod liver oil. So that's personally what I use and typically recommend there as well. All right, a few other comments and questions here. Karen says she does 400 milligrams 2 times a day of turmeric. Absolutely, Karen, great recommendations there as well. Janice asked about type 2 or type 1 diabetes. You know, it's going to absolutely help both. Type 1 is more autoimmune in nature. So again, type 1, it will absolutely directly affect. But all these foods we mentioned, and part of diabetes, you want to reduce inflammation of the pancreas. So again, all of these foods are going to help with balancing blood sugar levels. It's going to be great for type 1 or type 2 diabetics here as well, guys. Great comments, great questions. Erica Scott says reishi tea. Wrote that down. Yeah, that is a great. Do some reishi and tulsi tea. Those are great natural energy boosters, guys. Vanessa says, what about flaxseed oil if you're a vegan? You know, flaxseed oil is good. Okay, don't get me wrong. Flaxseed oil, chia seed oil, those are good. They don't contain EPA and DHA. Now, some of flax oil, ALA, which is what's in it, can be converted to EPA, but really hardly any DHA. So sometimes you can actually find and take a blend of a DHA oil that comes from seaweed, okay? So seaweed oil essentially, plus flax oil. So you might want to get 2 products if you're a vegan and try those together. But ideally, fish oil is definitely better. But again, if you're a vegan, try some, try and get a DHA vegan oil plus a flax or chia oil, and you can typically make up the difference there as well. It'll make a big difference for you. I absolutely promise that as well. And guys, there are other ways to reduce inflammation. Getting a good night's sleep is important. Exercise, by simply getting circulation in your body, that can move out inflammation or help inflammatory compounds out of your system. So again, exercise, and I'm not talking about a lot of long distance running, but light weightlifting, getting on a rebounder or mini trampoline, yoga classes, Pilates, bar classes. Swimming is fantastic for inflammation. Swimming is one of the best. Cycling is great. But getting out there and doing some exercise is great. Walking barefoot on the earth, getting sunshine, vitamin D reduces inflammation. So simply being in the sun absolutely helps as well. So again, those are some of the top ways to start reducing inflammation in the body and heal your body and help your friends heal from these chronic health conditions. Guys, I want to mention this. If you're not subscribed to these live Facebook feeds, make sure you subscribe for the live feeds, because we're doing pop-ins. In fact, today, now I'm going to share with you the time, my good buddy Jordan Rubin is out at the Beyond Organic Ranch. This is 10,000 acres of certified organic land. He's going to be doing a live Facebook broadcast at 5 p.m. Central Time today. So set maybe your alarm for 4:59. Tune in and watch Jordan today at 5 p.m. Central Time. He's going to be doing a live broadcast from the Beyond Organic Ranch. And it's amazing. I'm part owner of the ranch with Jordan, and we've got sheep and goats and wild cows that do the New Zealand grazing method. It's pretty incredible. We have a greenhouse out there where we're growing some of the incredible herbs and spices that we mentioned here as well. So you can check that out today at 5 p.m. Central Time. And I'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And again, you'll be caught up on this if you subscribe here on this page. I want to say, hey, thank you so much for your support, for watching this video. Again, this has been me, Dr. Josh Axe, talking about 5 steps to reduce chronic inflammation. Hey guys, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.